It's a huge pleasure to introduce our first keynote speakers, Lorin and Barry Doerksen. So as fourth-generation ranchers from Gem, Alberta, the Doerksen brothers are reshaping what it means to raise beef here in Canada. As founders of Gemstone grass-fed beef, they've transformed their family operation into a regenerative direct-to-consumer business focused on delivering nutrient-dense, flavorful beef across Alberta. Since launching in 2018, they've grown from online sales into a full retail butcher shop and restaurant at the Calgary Farmers Market West. It's a great place. I encourage you to check it all out. And along the way, they've earned some well-deserved recognition as Avenue Calgary's Top 40 Under 40 in 2023, and then Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers in 2024. The Doerksens are very passionate about bridging that gap between producer and consumer, and they're doing it one great story and one excellent cut of beef at a time. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Lorin and Barry Doerksen.
Thanks, Brady. Well, thank you, Brady. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today, and thank you to AdFarm for asking us to come and speak about our business. As Brady said, my name is Barry Doerksen, and together with my brother Lorin and our oldest brother Daniel, who wasn't able to make it today, as well as our wives, our parents Arno and Wanda Doerksen, and Uncle Tim and Aunt Yvonne, we own and operate Gemstone Cattle Company and Gemstone Grass-Fed Beef.
It's a pleasure to be here to speak today. One of the positive things about speaking events like this is it really forces you to sit down and kind of evaluate where you're at as a company and where we're going. And so today we want to give you a bit of an overview of our farm. We're going to talk a bit about our purebred cattle business with our grass-based genetics. We'll go through the ins and outs of grass finishing and what contributes to beef flavor. And we'll talk about our beef marketing company, Gemstone Grass-Fed Beef.
There we go. All right, so our farm is located in Gem, Alberta, about 1.5 hours straight east of Calgary, and we are located in an area known as the Eastern Irrigation District, and we're at the northern edge of that. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the EID, the water is diverted at the Bow River and through a series of canals, fills the Crawling Valley Reservoir, that's the lake that you see there, then through a smaller series of canals and underground pipe, all the quarter sections that you see there in circles and nice and green, we're able to get water there. So Gem is bordered on both sides by several miles of native prairie that either due to soil conditions or just kind of hillier land, it's not irrigated. So we have a lot of biodiversity in our region. Our farm consists of around 2,800 acres of irrigated cropland and around 2,000 acres of native grasslands, as well as access to more rented grass. We run around 900 head of purebred and commercial mother cows that are Hereford and Angus, about 850 yearlings in a grass-finished herd, and a 4,000 head feedlot. So the focus of our farm is cattle production, and we grow a lot of forage crops for silage and winter feed. Currently, most of our land is used for forage production to supply feed for our feedlot and our grass finishing herd. And we do a lot of double cropping, where we'll harvest the first crop and then graze the regrowth later in the year, often well into the winter months. So we try to limit the number of days that we feed our cows in the winter. The idea is that our cows work for us, we don't work for them. So that's my family, my wife Carla and my three boys. They love riding along as much as possible, but they spend most of their summer days touring the farm and their equipment there. So
I'm going to get into a little bit about our cattle business. So what we've learned is there's 3 keys to high quality grass-fed beef: grazing management, growing quality forage, and beef genetics. Our purebred company is called Gemstone Grass-Fed Beef. It's tied very close, or Gemstone Cattle Company. It's tied very close to what we're doing with the grass finishing. We specialize in 100% forage-developed commercial and purebred Hereford and Angus cattle. Motto of our brand is our thickness bred in, not fed in. The focus of our breeding program is to select cows that have natural fleshing ability that efficiently convert to forage into beef. So it's been our experience that cows that can thrive on pasture and low input forage diets will produce the type of cattle that can be profitable through the rest of the beef production cycle. We also select for longevity. We want our bulls to last for our customers and be well adapted to their environment. We've been raising purebred Hereford cattle for over 50 years. That was started by my dad back in the day. He liked the type of cattle that I've been describing and was selecting for moderate framed, easy keeping cattle. My older brother Daniel graduated from college and he came back to the farm right away and wanted to pick up on the purebred business. And so in 2014, we added a Red Angus purebred herd as well. So again, our bulls are 100% forage developed. We don't push them, they don't get any grain. And the reason we're doing that is because we're allowing them to show their natural genetic ability to grow muscle and put on fat. And this links directly into what we're doing with our grass finishing program. It's really the foundation of that. So by selecting for these traits, we've seen the quality of our cattle increase and our ability to get a finished product to market in a shorter period of time, and have seen our beef quality improve. Each fall, we have a fall production sale selling 70 Angus and Hereford bulls as well as bred females. We do a lot of cow-calf work from using horses. The next slide is my older brother Daniel and his family Kim and their kids. So his kids are a bit older than ours. They're all handy with horses and handy with a rope. So they end up managing a lot of the cow-calf operations on the farm. So in 2018, we started our beef marketing company, Gemstone Grass-Fed Beef. So we talked on and off over the years, even growing up, about selling our own beef. Is it something we should do to try to capture more of the value in our own business? I remember multiple conversations as a kid around the table, just kind of humming and hawing of whether or not we should be selling beef. I also remember talking about whether or not we should put a Tim Hortons up on Highway 36, but we should have done the Tim Hortons. But we didn't, so eventually we got into beef. But it's really the idea of becoming a price maker instead of a price taker was what enticed us. The uncertainty was, could we do it on a large enough scale to be competitive with the other opportunities that we had with our farm resources? So we're a multi-generational farm. My brothers and I are fourth generation. So when we came back into it, there was already a lot of multiple revenue streams off the farm and a lot going on. So it was a risk to invest time into a new program. And we actually ended up delaying an entire year of calf sales at one point to hold cattle for our grass finishing program. So a big part of what led us down this road, other than our genetics, was our interest in regenerative agriculture. I won't give you a textbook definition of regenerative agriculture, but essentially it revolves around building soil health, working with nature instead of against it, and trying to reduce inputs and find profitability that way. So Daniel and I were listening to a lot of podcasts and webinars at that time and on improving soil health, and grass-fed beef really fit into that paradigm. I was also kind of keen to learn more about the health benefits of grass-fed beef, which I'll talk more about. My background was in environmental science. I took a degree from the University of Lethbridge and had a 8-year career in the oil and gas industry. Basically, the more I researched grass-fed beef, the more excited I got about the opportunity for a career switch back to the farm. One of the early influences I had was a book by Canadian author Mark Schatzker. So he's a food writer from Toronto. He's got a couple of really interesting books out. One's called The Dorito Effect, The End of Craving. But the first book I read is called Steak, One Man's Search to Find the Best Taste of Beef. So basically, he goes all around the world. He goes to Argentina, the US, Ireland, France, and Italy, and he's looking for the best steak. And he always tries a ribeye and just uses salt. But he's really thorough. He did a lot of research into what contributes to beef flavor. So he finds that the worst steak he has is a grass-fed steak. And then the best steak he has is also a grass-fed steak. So that was kind of a light bulb moment for me. Just the idea that if you put the right work into it, you can produce a great product. And it's kind of an art and a science with producing grass-fed beef. I think industry sometimes has a way of wanting to standardize product, make things really black and white. So we want all beef to taste the same so that we could focus on efficiency and volume, which I think are good things. There's a reason for that. But it also can limit creativity on the production side and potentially miss out on certain characteristics of quality. So one of the things I like about grass-fed beef is that it doesn't all taste the same. There's a regional flavor to it. And so it's a real opportunity to sell the flavor of your farm. And that's been kind of an exciting endeavor. So again, what we found is the most important aspects are producing high quality grass-fed beef, are having the right genetics, grazing management, and growing high quality forage with lots of species diversity. So I talked about the genetics. That's what's really helping us get enough fat cover and marbling. We also do a lot of rotational grazing. So if you go to the next slide here, that top picture is an irrigated quarter section irrigated with a pivot. So conventionally, we just kick all our cattle out on that pasture as long until the grass is too short to graze. But in this case, we have it portioned out into multiple paddocks, and we can go even smaller using temporary fence, and we can move the cattle around every day so they're always getting fresh grass. So this prevents overgrazing, increases the recovery time, and over time will help build soil carbon and improves nutrient cycling. So I do a lot of this work on the farm. I enjoy going out with the cattle. When you're out there every day with them, they get quite curious and comfortable with you. And I'm always amazed you can control, up to 400 or 500 head of cattle that are over 1,200 pounds, and they're controlled by a little polywire with a light current in it. It's a lot of fun. They get really curious. And it doesn't matter how full they are. If I go out there with my quad and I move the fence, they're coming into new grass. So it's a way of getting them to increase their consumption. Another thing we focus on is increasing species diversity. That's really important for quality beef. So our perennial pastures will have up to 15 different species that include a combination of grasses, legumes, and forbs. We don't just do this with our perennial grass, we also do it with our annual crops. We grow a lot of polycrop silage for winter feed. So that's a new thing we've switched into. Some of these crops will have up to 17 different species in them, and we're finding it really provides a higher level of nutrition, a more balanced nutrition. And in particular, we're doing it to enhance the flavor of our beef. So I'll explain why that is. So plants obviously are loaded with chemical compounds, some of which are flavonoids. And when cattle finish on flavonoids, you get a really unique flavor, that's distinctive and creates a quality eating experience. So basically, the more types of grasses you have, the more different types of flavonoids, and it's just going to continue to enhance. Also does wonders for soil health and nutrient density because you're attracting a really wide array of microbes. Consumers do notice the difference, and over time, I think our flavor has definitely improved, and we do get a lot of positive feedback. So health benefits. Probably a lot of people have heard about the fatty acid profile of grass-fed beef being healthier. It has a lower omega-6 to 3 ratio. If you get too high omega-6 to 3 ratio, it can increase inflammation in the body. So a lot of people are interested in that. It also has up to 3 to 4 times the conjugated linoleic acid, which if you've ever been in a health food store, you can buy that in powder form. And consumers are aware of this. It's been one of the most interesting things is that we don't actually do a lot of marketing on the health benefits. People are coming to us asking us to confirm if our beef is grass-fed beef. The most emails we get are people that have been on the website and want to confirm that we're grass-finished, even though it says it right there. So this is my family on the left there, my wife Katie and our 3 girls. And every once in a while, we like to go out in our PJs and hang out in the polycrops and pick flowers. So all of this is really to produce a finished carcass. The goal is the same as with conventionally raised beef. You want to produce a finished animal. One of the things we did early on was ultrasound testing, so we could actually ultrasound these cattle and measure marbling and back fat before we slaughtered them, and that really helped us get an eye for finished animals, because it is a little bit different than grain-fed for sure.
So in 2018, when we first started selling our beef, we started with an online store that just contained a few different mixed boxes, so some ground beef, steaks, and roasts at various price points, and then cases of ground beef. So the mixed boxes were all pre-built, and the idea was that we would hopefully kind of force the consumer to buy our ground beef out at the same rate that they were buying the premium steaks. And it worked okay for a while, but we weren't really giving the customer an opportunity to pick what they actually wanted. So one thing that we've really learned in this business is that it's our job as the business owner to solve the problem for the customer. It's not the customer's job to solve the problem for us. So it's up to us to make sure that we appeal to a wide enough variety of customers that all the cuts are selling at the same rate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We also put a large focus on wholesaling boxes of individually packaged ground beef, steaks, and roasts. And we did this, so we were able to get into some specialty grocery stores like Nutters and Blush Lane, as well as some online platforms like True Local and Organic Box. And many of these stores we're still in today. Some of them are no longer in business. Wholesaling helped us build our brand awareness and allowed us to scale faster. So we knew that there would be some efficiencies in having consistent slaughter and getting our brand in front of more people than we could do just through our own store. And over time, we added more items to our store, but at that time, our butcher was actually storing all of our beef for us and fulfilling all of our orders. So we were kind of limited to what they were willing to do, which was basically a few mixed boxes and then cases. And we utilized third-party companies to do our deliveries for us. As I said earlier, we're an hour and a half outside of the city. So that allowed us to get to Calgary, Edmonton, Fort McMurray, Canmore, Banff without us actually putting the miles on our own vehicle. In those early days, for only a few orders a week, it wouldn't have been worth it. So that model basically allowed us to get to where we were shipping 20 to 30 online orders a week, as well as 5 to 10 wholesale orders. And that has grown substantially since 2020, and I'll share some of those updated numbers later. So in 2022, one of our delivery partners actually offered us some of their warehouse and freezer space in Calgary. And so we jumped at the opportunity to have our product closer to where our actual consumer was. We thought that should really be able to decrease the amount of time from order to order fulfillment. And we were able to get it down from a week to 10 days to usually 1 to 3 business days, pretty much across the province. So we hired a warehouse manager to put those orders together and enhanced our website to have a full offering of individual cuts. So one of those initial challenges that we faced was selling every cut at the same rate. So the premium steaks would sell really fast, and other products would accumulate in the freezer. So this is a photo that is all skirt steak, accumulated over several weeks. Are there any skirt steak fans in the crowd? Where were you 5 years ago? So I remember taking this picture and I texted it to Lorin in a bit of a panic. How on earth are we going to move all this skirt? We hadn't really had luck selling full cases of it online, and so we knew we needed another option. So at about the same time, we were introduced to Connie D'Souza and John Jackson. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them, Char Bar and Char Cut. And they were interested in bringing our beef onto their menu, but being experienced restaurant owners, they knew that we would likely struggle to supply them with one consistent steak. So they created a menu item called the Butcher Cut Steak that utilizes 5 to 6 different cuts for the same menu item. So we can send them skirt, tri-tip, picanha, flat iron, flank, and petite tender. And it's the same menu item. And actually the customers really like it because if they come every week, it's kind of a different cut all the time. So that's been a really good thing for us.
So early on, we found it actually quite hard to break into the local market. And so I did a lot of cold calls in the first 2 years of trying to market our beef. And I'd been talking to a butcher shop owner in Vancouver, Bet Porta, who has 5 or 6 butcher shops there. And I think we talked for over 2 years, and finally he decided to bring his wife and tour the farm. And got along really well with him, and he could see the demand really rising for grass-fed beef in Vancouver. And he was looking for a product that was better than the imported beef that he was bringing in. So anyway, we started shipping beef to Vancouver, which is kind of a milestone moment for us at that time. I don't know if you know, but in order to get beef outside of the province in Alberta, you have to use a federally inspected plant, whereas typically we were just using provincially inspected plant. So I got some experience using a mid-sized federal plant and shipping loads of 10 or 20 box beef in pallets to Vancouver. And we did that for a couple of years. We've kind of pulled back from it now as our local demand has grown a lot, and it did create some inventory challenges for us sometimes. But it is a market that we'd love to get back into. A lot of talk these days about interprovincial trade, and looking forward to a day where we can ship our beef across the border without needing to use a federal inspected plant. The goofy thing is if I go to a federal plant, I can ship to Dubai or China or anywhere, and the same regulations apply to go to Regina or Vancouver. So it's something I hope we can overcome as an industry at some point. But that sort of introduced us to a bit of a new thought to the business. Should we be striving for boxed beef, like doing it on a way bigger scale? But the more we thought about it, the more we learned about it, realized that in the beef industry, the way we were doing it, we would eventually lose control of the price again because you're kind of slipping back into that commodity. So at the same time, we were also looking at going to the Calgary Farmers Market West, which is a totally different business model. And that's the one where we ended up landing. So in 2021, we were accepted as the beef vendor right during COVID. There was a delayed opening to August 2022, which I was really grateful for because we were kind of in over our heads with designing a butcher shop and a kitchen kiosk. So I spent a lot of evenings on the computer nerding out over butcher equipment and restaurant equipment. I think I know more about restaurant equipment than I do about farm equipment, which is a little embarrassing, but so that's a combi oven there on the left, which can do a lot of interesting things. But anyway, yeah, we got into this space, got the build out done. Definitely felt like a big risk and a big learning curve, but we got lots of great advice along the way. So this is what our shop looks like today. It's really small, 579 square feet. But this market, it's right across from Winsport, currently sees traffic of up to 30,000 people a week, and it's just 3 years old. So we're cutting a lot of beef in there. We're cutting around 14 animals in the back. So this place includes a small processing facility in the back. One of the things I wanted to do is put a window into the cutting room so it would be totally transparent and people could see whole animal butchery happening live. And that's been really successful. People like to come in and look, and they wheel their strollers up there and their kids watch the guys go at a beef carcass. So this shop has obviously drastically changed our business. We now have a staff of 5 full-time butchers and around 6 to 8 support staff that work either in the shop or in the kitchen. One of the big things is we knew we'd have to hire a manager to manage the space, as none of us were butchers and we were busy on the farm raising the animals. We'd already accepted the vendorship well before we met our would-be manager, which looking back was a little crazy. We could have really been hooped there if we hadn't have met the guy on the left there, Andy Sedlak. So he moved to Calgary from Vancouver to run the shop. He was running a shop in downtown Vancouver, in an organic grocery store. He's really passionate about whole animal butchery, knew a lot about regenerative agriculture, and actually wanted to work directly with the farm. So it's worked out really good. He's been a huge part of our business. He manages the shop and kitchen, and we give him a fair bit of autonomy. He he runs the day-to-day operations, and we don't micromanage him a lot at all. We do have regular meetings. And he brought 2 guys with him from Vancouver that were working in the same shop. So he actually came with kind of a team, which is really beneficial.
Yeah, so in this photo, you see 2 fairly large pieces of meat. So that's how the beef arrives. It comes in eighths rather than primals, so that the guys can break it down the way that they want. And it's a workout. Delivery day is pretty intense for them. The guy on the right there, Aaron, if he is actually not scheduled to work on a delivery day, he gets really upset that then he has to go to the gym because he much prefers to just lift these big pieces of meat. So every week in our case, you can find a complete nose to tail offering of cuts, and we attract many customers that are looking for particular cuts that they can't find at other shops. A lot of times we'll actually put the tongue and the oxtail right beside each other, and people kind of get a kick out of that. Most meat shops don't operate on whole animal butchery model. Instead, they bring in loins and muscles and cuts that they know they can sell, whereas we have to sell the entire carcass. So the initial challenge of carcass utilization has become one of our biggest strengths, and that, like I said, you can find cuts in our shop that are harder to find in others. So early on, we would sell popular cuts like ribeye and tenderloin, and we would often sell out by Saturday noon, so we'd have to go the rest of Saturday and Sunday without them. But the experienced butchers that they are, they were very good at directing customers to things that they hadn't heard of, like a Denver steak or a tri-tip. And the interesting thing is that now that customers have tried those cuts, we actually sell out of those first. So that's been really, really neat. So one of the big questions that we had to answer, and I think most farm-to-table beef companies have to answer, is what do you do with the organs and what do you do with the fat? So the easy answer is decrease the price and try to sell it as pet food, but we didn't really like that option. So we started making the ancestral blend of ground beef. So we incorporate liver, tongue, kidney, heart, and spleen at either a 10% or 30% ratio into our 1 pound packs of ground beef. So the benefit is that if people want to eat organ meat but they don't want to cook a liver or a kidney, you can get it in your ground beef. You could make burger patties, sausage, and get the benefits of organ meat without having to cook it. So we strive to be zero waste, and while we aren't quite there yet, this is a great way to use those products. So another decision that we made was to open a kitchen at the farmers market. So we have burgers and artisan roast beef sandwiches that we sell, and we recently started making tallow fries. So who's familiar with tallow fries? They're just fries cooked in beef fat, and they're delicious. So there's kind of been a resurgence. I mean, that's how fries used to be cooked, and there's kind of been a resurgence of that, especially in the States with a lot of popular burger shacks. So it was kind of a goal from day one, but we initially didn't have room in our kitchen. We needed a burner to boil our bone broth, so we didn't have room under our hood fan. But again, Lorin, one of his late night restaurant equipment nerding sessions, found basically a self-contained fryer that has its own fire suppression unit, so we're able to cook our tallow fries in that. There they are. But really the main reason that we wanted the kitchen space was to be able to have a place to use products that were slower selling in the meat shop and online, and instead of discounting the price, we would add value by making them into a higher value product, which really is the secret in this business. So the kitchen gave us a place to make these value-added products. So that's just some of our deli meats. So Italian roast beef, pastrami, hickory smoked, and original roast beef. And these are becoming very popular with consumers as well. We also make a beef bacon. Any beef bacon fans? So we also have a nitrite-free bacon because consumers were asking us for a product that didn't have artificial preservatives. So Andy, our chef, butcher, manager, he's extremely creative with that stuff, so he came up with a nitrite and sugar-free bacon. The bone broth that you see there, that's a huge component of utilizing the carcass. You take a few dollars worth of bones and you can get a few $100s worth of broth, so it's a really key part of this business. The middle photo there is one of our pulled beef freezer meals, so roasts are actually really tough to sell. The Sunday pot roast is just not really a thing anymore. So we cook the roasts and we pull them and we sell them frozen, but it's all cooked already, so it makes a really easy meal. We've got several different flavors, and then that's our beef bacon there on the side. And last summer, actually, Andy's beef shank pie was listed on Avenue Magazine's one of the best things to eat in the city. There might be some later at the party. So pet food is just another thing that we do just to try and be zero waste. And there is a lot more opportunity. We haven't really scratched the surface of that yet with freeze drying organs and all kinds of different things. So basically through our multiple sales channels, the farmer's market, selling quarters and halves, the online store, and wholesale, we've been able to scale to the point where last year we directly sold over 800 head of beef to consumers. And this year we're looking at close to 1,000. We're currently shipping between 15 to 20 beef a week that gets sold through these various channels. We get to interact with over 1,000 customers a week at the farmer's market and roughly 80 to 120 online orders a week. And we're just about finished a major website upgrade that we're confident is going to lead to higher online sales. So we're kind of shifting away from an information website that also has a store to really being a true online storefront that does a better job of featuring our products. I was getting a lot of emails and phone calls from people who were on my website and would email me, do you sell beef? So that was kind of a cue to me that, okay, something's not quite right here. So anyway, we're hoping that that'll be finished soon and lead to higher sales. We remember when we were at 3 beef a week and struggling to move all the products and wondering if this was ever going to finally make sense for us. But yeah, we have a great team of people, both on the farm and in Calgary at the market and the warehouse, and we're privileged to work with them. Customers really just want a connection to where their food is coming from, and both our phone numbers are listed on our site, and we get regular calls from people. I had a lady a few months ago phone me. She was in one of the retail stores that we sell to in front of the freezer, had a pack of our ground beef in her hand. She had never heard of us, so looked us up and phoned me. A few quick questions about the farm, and she made a purchase, so that was kind of a neat experience. So who's familiar with tallow balm? Well, we did bring some tallow balm. So tallow has been a bit of a surprising opportunity for us. So tallow is the fat around the kidney. It's also known as suet or leaf fat. And it has many uses. It can be used as a cooking oil, or it can be used as a skincare product or to make soap. So we'd been selling our raw suet to some other companies that were making whipped tallow balm. And one night my wife and I in our kitchen, we thought, hey, we should just try this. So we looked up a recipe, and the result was a really lumpy, really beefy, smelly lotion that neither one of us wanted to use. So we kept on trying and made a few modifications and eventually had a product that we were proud of and proud to sell. So just like that, Gemstone Tallow Balm was born. 3 farm boys from Alberta, never thought we'd be in the skincare industry, but I guess we're changing the face of it. So we also recently launched a brand of tallow called Farm to Tallow with Amazon in the United States. So we did it under a different label because in Canada we want to sell under our own label. But we want to be able to tap into the US market.
Yeah, we were trying to think of maybe some of the lessons we've learned. I think one of the keys to our success in the past has been partnerships. Kind of right from the beginning, we partnered with local abattoirs, spent lots of time building those relationships. I think partnerships with delivery companies has been a huge thing as well. I think we learned a lot of that just from growing up in a family business as well, and seeing our parents and aunts and uncles working together. Barry mentioned it before, but I like the concept of businesses existing to solve problems. We try to say yes to our customers as much as possible. Obviously, you can't solve every problem, but the more we can accommodate people, the more successful we'll be at building brand loyalty.
So some of the future goals that we have for our business, I mentioned doing freeze-dried beef organs. We still have a bit of a liver problem, so that's something that we're looking at now. Is there an opportunity there? So we boil our bones to make broth, but we could also then be saving those bones and crushing them into a powder form to sell into the landscaping industry. Again, just trying to use every part of the carcass and not throw anything out until we absolutely need to. The tallow sales, we would really like to see that increase. And yeah, as Lorin mentioned, we would really love to see reduced trade barriers within Canada. We get phone calls and emails every week from people in Vancouver specifically, and we don't do any marketing there whatsoever. We don't run Facebook ads there. We're not trying to target that audience, but they are desperately seeking good Alberta beef on their plates. And you know, somehow it becomes unsafe at the border, and so we would really like to see that changed. So.
Yeah, that's the end of our presentation. Thanks a lot for listening and for your time.
Awesome. Okay, well, Lorin and Barry, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. You know, as someone who's grown up in the beef industry, not too far from you guys, I'd just say it's really inspiring what you've done as a business, but as a family together as well. That's really been incredible. Have been to your shop at the farmer's market there. It seems to be always packed, and I actually have friends and people I know that only buy your beef too, solely, so kudos to you guys. So the next, I think we got about 10, 15 minutes tops here to take some questions from the floor. We've got mic runners here, and we also have some monitoring online. So I see one hand in the middle to start. Just raise it up nice and high, and we'll get your question in.
Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you so much for that and for doing what you do. So I'm not really that into the tallow, with the whipped tallow, but my daughters all are, and they've got me using it a little bit, and I just have a strange question. How much of that whipped tallow can you make from one animal?
So there's about roughly 15 pounds of the pure suet per carcass. And we can generally get a pound into 15 to 16 2-ounce jars.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
So what is it,
Making them do math.
Yeah. Dollars?
I promise you guys there'd be no math.
Well, let me use my teacher told me I would never have a calculator in my pocket, but that's not true. So the revenue potential, get ready for it, is about $4,500 per carcass. So we are nowhere near that, but that's where it could go.
Hey, Brady.
Okay.
Mark here from Simple Hedge. Thank you, guys. I'm a big fan of Gemstone. Just got an order today, and I've been making tallow fries at home. They're incredible. I really want to be able to go to the Porch or any Calgary restaurant and have tallow fries. So have you worked on selling to any restaurants?
So we've started. So actually, to make tallow fries, you don't actually need to use that pure suet. You can really just use carcass fat, which is what we do in our shop. And so we have started rendering, larger buckets of just the carcass fat. So there's a huge opportunity there, but it is more expensive for the restaurant than cooking oil. So we haven't tried hard into that yet, but that is one of our future state goals, to try to push that hard. Again, try to be zero waste.
I think it's starting to happen in the U.S. faster too. Like some of the big fast food chains in the States, like I think it's Shake Shack, has now switched over to tallow for their fries. So I don't know, typically when things happen down there, they happen here a little later. So who knows, we could see a lot more demand.
Looking out to see any other hands. Do you have one, Alex? Okay.
What do you guys think is the most underrated or underutilized cut of beef?
So lately, my family and I, we've been cooking tri-tips like crazy. And 5 years ago, I had no clue what a tri-tip was. But if they're done right, they're phenomenal.
Explain what it is for everyone.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I used to know the carcass better, but since Andy's come around, I haven't had to know as much. But the tri-tip comes from the sirloin. It's kind of a triangular piece of meat with multiple grains. In California, they call it a California brisket because it kind of has a similar texture, but you can cook it in about 45 minutes instead of 12 hours. So it's popular for that reason. You can also just cut it into a steak and do it on the barbecue. And it's a lot cheaper than a ribeye or a New York strip steak.
Do we have another one? Oh, it's right down there.
Hi, I have a question on the U.S. market. So have you done any market research on what grass-fed beef, like specifically the beef, not the tallow or anything, is in the States? And would there be a barrier because they actually have a grass-fed certification down there? Is that a barrier you'd have to meet?
Well, to get our beef to the States, we would have to be using a federal plant, which we're not right now. They're way ahead of in grass-fed beef. There's quite a rapidly growing market for it for probably the last 10 years. Since we started, it was really taking off there. It's different in the States, so there's a lot more people. Like some of the farmers or the farm brands that I follow are surrounded by like 4 major cities, and it's a totally different game. But it's just interesting to watch what's going on down there for sure. But I don't we're not really looking at that market to try to get into it at this point.
We've got a couple questions on each side of the row here.
So I've got 2 brothers as well, and there's not a snowball's chance in hell we could run a business together. So, let alone a restaurant and a store and a ranch. So what's been kind of the key to success from the family side of the operation and managing those dynamics?
Well, we don't all live in the same house, which is helpful. We each have our own families, and we live down the road from each other. But I don't know. I think we fought enough as kids, probably, that we figured out how to fight without fighting too hard, I guess. I don't know. But one thing our farm did a couple of years ago was build an office space, so we had a place where we could all meet, and that's really just kind of helped keep people on the same page. We got a couple of families that work with us on the farm as well, so I'd say that's been a key point. I think the other thing is having a vision. I think it's been important to have a vision. It kind of makes some of the smaller, squabbly things deteriorate when you're kind of all headed in the same direction. Idea?
Yeah, the other key thing is we're not stepping on each other's toes. We each have very defined roles. So Daniel's the rancher. Lorin looks after finishing the grass cattle and soil health. And I'm more looking after the finance and logistics side of things. So we respect the role that each of us play, and we're not all trying to do the same thing.
How hard was it to get your animals into a federally inspected facility, and then why did you decide to go away from that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of options. There's a plant in Lacombe, and there was a new plant in Wetaskiwin, which is partly owned by a Hutterite colony, Pine Haven. So we've slaughtered in both of those plants. It wasn't hard at the time. There was rail space, and they were willing to do loads as small as 10 head. They prefer to do lot loads of 40 head, but they were making some exceptions at the time. So it was a timing thing. We got in. We were lucky to kind of get our foot in the door, but it's always a phone call away until your kill's canceled and somebody else is in. So that was one of the reasons that we pulled out. It's just the sustainability of it seemed more risky, and then you're receiving big boxes of beef. You lose some of your ability to utilize the carcass on your own. You're kind of at the mercy of what happens in the plant. Whereas we had really good relationships with the federal plant in Brooks, or provincial plant in Brooks and Strathmore, that we can communicate a bit closer with them.
So I think we've got time for one more question, if there is any from the floor. It's hard to see a bit, it's just looking for hands. If not, maybe I'll wrap up with one final question for you guys. Do you have advice for other producers, whether it's in the beef industry or other segment of ag, that are looking to tell their story a little bit more publicly and get that connection to the end consumer that you've done throughout your journey? Just any advice overall?
I think honestly, there's a lot of people doing a better job of like the social media brand storytelling than we are. I find it hard to use my phone while I'm working and post to social media. A lot of people are doing a really good job of that. And we're kind of watching what they're doing. But I think you have to get in the mindset of wanting to solve problems, I think is the big thing if you want to expand a farm-to-table business.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, please join me in giving Lorin and Barry a huge round of applause. Thank you very much. Yes. And I think we've got actually a fun little game to wrap us up.
We're just going to do a short round of Name That Steak. Okay, the first one up. Does anybody know what this steak is? So you got to put your hand up because there's prizes. Hand right there. Yep. Strip loin. It's not a strip loin. Not a sirloin. In the pink shirt? No. Yeah, it's a Denver steak. Nice. Super high marbling. This is one of our earlier beef, and amazingly, he didn't have a lot of cover fat, this particular animal, but he had the marbling in the shoulder cut. So the Denver steak is from the chuck flat, which is a shoulder cut. Anybody know what this steak is? Right here? Picanha. Yep, that's picanha. Also known as a sirloin cap steak. Really popular in Argentina and Brazil. Better go again. Yeah, that's a skirt. Yeah. Okay, this is by far the hardest one. Anybody know this steak? There's only 2 on the animal. Right here in the black. No. Pardon? Well, I don't think so unless you know it by a different name. That's the confusing thing, is that multiple cuts have like a lot of different names depending on if you're in the US or Canada. But not a tri-tip. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, it's in the shop we call it a spider steak. Yeah.
Someone else can win it.
Catch.
All right.
That's perfect. No, that's an excellent way to close it out with a little trivia. So thank you guys very much.